So this is something I'm a little bit surprised that I haven't done before. This is something I've had on my shelf since the channel was born, pretty much, and I've always meant to get around to it. And I looked recently when I was doing the mead, and I was like, I wonder why I don't do more honey things. And then I looked and remembered that I've been meaning to get around to this for nearly 4 years now. The channel's birthday is coming up next month, actually, so it's going to be 4 years I've been doing this. 4 fucking years. This is Drambuie. I'm going to sort of come out with it straight away. I like this stuff. I rate it. I would recommend it to people. So there you go. If you need to go and do something else with your life, then that's a succinct thing. You may go now. But if you want a little bit more information, then stick around, because that's what we're going to do. Quick thank you as well to my patrons. They're people that help me to fund let's call it an interest. And their names will be at the end of the video, and there'll also be links down below. If you feel like financially supporting the channel, blah 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 blah, click link. Thank you very much. I'll stop begging now. This is Drambuie. They redesigned the label about 5 years ago now, I want to say. You can still find examples of the older bottling just casually sitting in supermarkets and stuff. It doesn't sell very well at all, which is a real shame, because I think more people should be drinking it. I'm going to go through a couple of things that you can do with it as well, because it's surprisingly versatile. Oh, there we go. So pop that in there. Now then, I get, first of all, why some people might be a little bit put off from this stuff. It does have a bit of a medicinal whack to it, and that's because there's herbs and spices in there as well, which kind of lend to it it's sort of like the nowhere near as horrible cousin of this stuff, green chartreuse. If you've not seen me choking this down, there'll be links. That video's quickly gone down in infamy, apparently, and loads of people have requested that I do the hot chocolate, so I guess I'll do that for Christmas, because, hey, might as well, you know, end the year how it's basically been the whole time. Pain and suffering and crying and... Anyway, Drambuie. I'm going to read a little bit of the details from the label, and then I'm going to drink a bit because it's nice. I'm going to talk about some of the things that you can do with it as well. It's 40%, it's known as the Isle of Skye liqueur, and it describes itself as aged Scotch whisky, which is stupid because all Scotch whisky is aged. That's literally what Scotch whisky is, so that's a down. Heather, honey, herbs and spices. I love the bottle design. I think it's very classical and lovely. The old design, it tried to get a bit hip and modern, and it just kind of came off as shit. Whereas this one, yeah, I'm into it a bit more. And there's a lot of reading on the back. So are you ready for a story? Because you're getting one whether you like it or not. If they've finally given me chapters, because I'm a real boy now, you'll be able to skip them down below. If not, then you're just going to have to suffer through. Apparently I'm not important enough or something, I don't know. In 1745, Bonnie Prince Charlie landed on the west coast of Scotland, driven by fiery ambition. He was intent on, we're going to get a history lesson here, aren't we, on reclaiming the throne of his ancestors, rallying many to his cause. Despite early victories, they were decisively defeated at the Battle of Culloden, and Charlie escaped to the Isle of Skye. Nice place. Under the protection of the MacKinnon clan. By way of thanks, he gifted them the only possessions he had left. The recipe for his personal elixir, they called it Drambuie, after the Gaelic a dram budhich. I think I fucked that last bit up, I was doing so well. Which means the drink that satisfies. And that's in, like, blood red italics. After 100 years as a local secret, production started on mainland Scotland, and as Drambuie's fame spread, it was soon being poured in the finest bars around the world. Today, the legend lives on, embodied in classic cocktails like the Rusty Nail. They've trademarked that somehow, I'm not quite sure how, and the Drambuie Collins. I would assume that is just add soda to it. We're not going to do that today, because that doesn't actually sound very appealing, and that's not going to be one of my recommendations. Seriously, what is this thing with, like, oh, soda and tonic are popular. Let's just put soda and tonic in everything. You don't need to put soda in absolutely fucking everything. Stop it. Some things it just doesn't work. Anyway, so that was a little history lesson. And it does actually have in raised letters as well, Bonnie Prince Charlie. In fact, it says Bonnie Prince Charlie's. So this is his bottle. So that's exciting. And it is owned by KLBLBD? Oh, who are they again? What you get primarily is the herbs. The herbs are what come through. There's a little bit of like a honey sweetness in there. But it's like an orgy of thyme, rosemary. I'm going to say za'atar, if anyone's ever had za'atar. It's like a herbal spice blend that you get. It's like a pre-packed stuff, and it's like seeds. I'm not exactly sure what's exactly in it. I just know that I quite like to use them in my cooking. I'm one of those people that's just kind of like, oh, I've never heard of that before. In it goes. What does it taste like? Yeah, I like it. That'll do. I know, right? You'd think I have more discerning taste. And then to taste it. Oh, by the way, it's super thick. I should mention that it's super thick. The honey kind of like dominates it, and then there's the herbal components that kind of temper it. It's sort of like you tried to cut heather honey with thyme and rosemary. Essentially, there's like a pininess, there's a grassiness, a vegetalness to it. It's quite spicy. The whiskey is kind of just there as a vehicle more than anything else, because it's sort of blanketed over. And then there's kind of like a raisiny sweetness towards the finish. It's heavy. It is a heavy liqueur. Full of body, really thick, quite sweet. It's not going to be immediately accessible to everyone, but there are some things that you can do with it. First of all, you can drink it as a digestif. It's a great thing after dinner. If you've had a meal and you want something sweet and a little bit boozy, this rolls into both. And it's actually quite nice with a cube of ice, or even trying it in something like a coffee or a hot chocolate. Both work really well because of the natural sweetness. It works really well with a hot drink, and it's going to help you digest your meal, so that's a bonus. In addition to that, Rusty Nail's the obvious one, half-half. There are some people that like to pretend that they are the masters of the Rusty Nail, and it is one of the simplest drinks to make, and I don't get the pretense about it, and I don't get the people that kind of go, oh, do you know how to make a Rusty Nail? Because this person makes a perfect one. And it's like, yeah, it's half and half of like a shot of whiskey and a shot of this. Stir it together, fucking drink it. That's the end of it. I've had so many people come up to me like, no, you don't use this whiskey, you use that whiskey. It's like, it doesn't matter. You might think it matters, but it doesn't fucking matter. You do it the way that you want to do it. If you want to use Glenkinchie, great. If you want to use Lafroig, great. If you want to use bourbon, little odd, but fine, go for it. If you want to use a grain whiskey, go. Actually, I would imagine that would work really fucking well now I think about it. Try that at some point. But yeah, that's a Rusty Nail. Make sure there's a cube of ice in there. Make sure you stir it, because dilution is important in cocktails. Loads of people think that they're watering down the cocktail. Yeah, you are. That's an ingredient. Deal with it. These are also great to use in things where, say for example, you've got a cocktail that you use as a sugar component. Cut a little bit of it with Drambuie, just to add a little bit of that herbal component. It adds a bit of like a complexity to the drink, what people can't necessarily put their finger on. And it doesn't just go, oh yeah, that's Drambuie. It just kind of adds like a tiny little hint of like, that's a little bit different. What is that? And you keep them guessing, and you get a reputation as a bit of a miracle worker, whereas really all you did was just dip a little bit of something in it. That's all. One other recommendation as well. Try this as an ingredient for a sour on its own. There probably was at this point, a bar in Edinburgh called Sophie's, and it was on the south side. Sophie's South Side, I think is what it was called. And they did a thing where it was make your own sour, and basically anything on the back bar they would turn into a sour for you. And I thought, all right, well, you've got Drambuie there, can you give that a go? And they were like, yeah, I mean, people normally just say Disaronno, but yeah, sure, we'll give that a go. So we did, and it was fucking great. This plays really well with citrus. It doesn't really need any sugar because obviously there's sweetness in there already, same way that you would do with like a Disaronno sour. You don't need to add extra sweetness to something that is already that fucking sweet. So you play around with it, you add a bit of citrus, you put a couple of bitters in there, you shake it up, you can use egg, you don't have to, you can use artificial thickeners, you can use, I was going to say aquavitae, aquafaba in there as well, or you can cut it with a little bit of something else if you want to, and it's great. Making it as a sour, fantastic, absolutely into it. And it's also good on ice cream. Again, little bit odd, but it works, and I dig it. So there's a couple of recommendations for what to do with Drambuie, because it is one of those things that I think sits in people's cupboards, and it comes out around about this time of year, and people aren't quite sure what to do with it. It's really versatile, and I'd recommend you play around with it as well. And I've given you sort of a blanket, almost, of little things that you can do with it. Quite simple to a little more complicated, but still easy enough to do at home, because that's where a lot of us are going to be doing our drinking until this year is done, and probably into next year as well, because let's not pretend that this is going to go away with a snap of fingers. This is going to take a while, and if we accept that, we can move through it. For now though, thank you very much for watching. Do let me know down below, have you tried Drambuie? What do you think of it? Have you tried it in different drinks? Do you like experimenting with it? Have you seen old bottles of it languish on supermarket shelves like I have? There's loads of them around where I am, and they're getting sun faded and they just look really sad. It's like, if anyone's watched The Haunting of Bly Manor, it's kind of like The Lady of the Lake, you know, where her face slowly starts to disappear. Spoilers, by the way. Did that the wrong way around. Thumb the video if you enjoyed it, and if you are interested in supporting the channel financially, then there'll be links down below that will let you do that. Thank you very much for watching, and do join me next time where I'll be drinking something else.